All right, and we are broadcasting live. Welcome to Morgan & Morgan Insurance Recovery Group's Fight for Your Business Interruption Insurance Claim Payout. I'm Phil Sanoff, trial lawyer with Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group. We're going to be led today by our senior partner and leader, double board certified trial lawyer, Mark Nation. I'll introduce the firm a little bit before I turn it over to Mark. With Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group, we have 55 of the greatest colleagues of mine you'd ever want to know. We are in 25 offices, 13 states, all over the country. Although we're here today primarily to talk about business interruption insurance claims, if you have any problem with any insurance claim anywhere, you need to come see us. You can reach us through our website, forthepeople.com, or hit pound LAW from any cell phone. Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group, come see us. At this point, it is time for me to turn it over to my friend and mentor colleague, Mark Nation, again, double board certified trial lawyer, leader of Morgan & Morgan's Insurance Recovery Group. Mark, please take it away.
All right, Phil, thank you. Very kind introduction. And he's right. We've got a great team of lawyers who help policyholders throughout the United States. And we have a passion for it. We love doing it and been doing it a long time. We've got hundreds of years of experience behind us when you add everybody up. I've been doing it 30 years, so has Phil. And if you've got an insurance claim against your own policy or your own carrier, that's something we can look at for you. An easy way to remember it is, at least for me, is anytime your own insurance company says no, is low or slow, that's a good case for us to take a look at. And we've represented, and I have individuals, small business owners, mid-sized businesses, and very, very large corporations in insurance claims against their own insurance companies. And so I'm going to do a screen share real quick, and the focus of the talk today is going to be on business interruption claims. But like Phil said, any question you have about insurance, doesn't matter if it's a homeowner's claim, life insurance, health insurance, disability, business owners, anything, if it has to do with an insurance company, feel free to ask it. I love talking about this stuff. And in fact, for 10 years, I had a radio show called Justice for All. And really, I just talked about any legal question, anything from admiralty to zoning. And so if in the midst of our discussion today, you think, well, wait a minute, I got a question about fill in the blank, anything legal, I'm happy to take that call. I love talking about this stuff. While the focus is business interruption claims, I do want to open it up. If you've got a question, then ask it, regardless what it's about. If I can help you, I really have a passion for helping people who have legal questions or issues, maybe get some peace of mind. If we can do that here on this show today, I'd love to do it. I'm going to share the screen. I want to talk a little bit about business interruption. And so let me do that real quick. And Phil and Ned, can you see my whiteboard good?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So one thing that the insurance industry has been very good at since COVID-19 has occurred is messaging out, getting the message out, their message out, that these claims, these business interruption claims that so many people have suffered through, are not covered. And that's just plain wrong. So that the purpose of us coming together every Thursday at 5 o'clock, if I could only do one thing, it would be get this message out. A lot of these claims for business interruption under your own insurance policy are covered. And I want to draw something right here to make that point and then get into our questions. The main part of this show is going to be me interacting with you. And so I'd like you to, if you have a question in your in the Zoom link, you can raise your hand, and I'd like you to do that so I can talk to you personally. But here's the main message, and we'll talk about it in detail later. But here's the main message. If we took a continuum from here to here, and on this side, claims for business interruption, and I'll just put BI, are covered All right. And over here, way over here, we're going to put not covered. All right. So those are the two ends of our spectrum. Here's the point that I would like to make. A lot of claims, and that's green, are going to be covered. Some claims are going to be not covered. And then there's going to be this area right here, which is kind of, we don't know yet. And until we look at your insurance policy, I'm really not going to be able to help you with the claim, because I'm here to tell you there's a bunch of them that we know are just covered. The language of the policy indicates that it's covered. There are no exclusions. And then there are going to be some over here on the right-hand side that probably are not going to be covered. And there's going to be some in the middle where we're going to wait for some guidance from the court. We're going to need, and I misspoke, we're not going to wait. We're hopefully going to create some law on this issue, because the courts have not answered some of the important questions that are going to evolve and revolve around this group of cases right here. So, what is the key? The key is file your claim. And you need to, whether you believe it's covered or not, you need to file your claim. And we'll do that for you. And we'll give you an opportunity, or at the conclusion, we're going to send you an email that sets forth a way in which you can sign up to have us help you. And it's a contingency fee. If we don't make a recovery, we don't get anything. And what we do on behalf of clients is review the policy. If we think you have a claim, we'll help file the claim and file it for you. And then if the insurance company denies it, if they're wrong, we're going to tell you that and pursue the case for you. If they're right, we'll tell you that. But at least you've got the claim filed and you have peace of mind about this. I want to counter the message coming out from insurance companies that these are not covered. Some of them are. And then people said, well, what about the virus exclusion? And I'm here to tell you, I've looked at hundreds of policies. There's not one thing that's called the virus exclusion. Many, many policies don't have anything in them at all that anybody's even calling a relevant exclusion. And some of them have exclusions that the insurance company says, well, this excludes this virus claim, and it doesn't. And then some of them have what's going to be a pretty tight exclusion that does apply depending on the facts and depending on how some courts rule on some very specific issues. And so you need to file the claim, because if you don't file the claim, one thing I know for sure is every one of these policies say you have to file the claim promptly. And the failure to file a prompt claim could jeopardize the entire claim, whether it's covered or not. And so filing a claim is important. And I know what people think. What if I file this claim, my rates are going to go up? Your business is under right now. 1, 2, your rates are going up whether you file the claim or not. They've never gone down. They go up every year. If there was ever a time to file, it's now, especially with so many unanswered questions out there about whether or not these claims are covered. And so I encourage people, let's get the claim filed and take away from the insurance company one of their main defenses, and that is the failure to give prompt notice. So let's get these claims filed. And then let us do what we do, and that is figure out if these things are covered with you. All right. That's what I wanted to get out. That's the main messages, but I do want to talk to you about any questions you may have. Do we have any questions? Phil and Ned?
I want to encourage our attendees, you can click the raise hand function. If you hover over the drop down of your name, and we can unmute you.
All right, do we not have any questions yet?
There's no question yet on the table yet, Mark. If there are other points that you'd like to cover, we are waiting
Yeah,
to
let me go to the next
continue
screen.
encouraging folks.
Yeah. So this is, we've modified this a little bit as recently as today, but this is a simple way to file the claim. And one of the things that is important when we file the claim is, let's not get caught up in semantics. Insurance companies call this type of coverage by lots of different names. There's business interruption coverage, there's business income coverage, there's time elements coverage, extra expense coverage, dependent property coverage, civil authority coverage. There are all kinds of coverages, and insurance companies call them, they may be the same thing, but they call them different things. And so one of the mistakes that I've seen people making when they're filing these on their own is they'll say, I'm filing a claim for business interruption, or I'm filing a claim for civil authority. And the insurance company will say, well, wait, there's no cover, you don't have any coverage for business income. And that's because the insurance company calls it time elements coverage in their policy. And so we don't fall in that trap. I think it's important to just say this: I'm hereby presenting a claim for all coverages available under my policy for loss of income and extra expense. Those are two different things, and I'll show you what those mean. And if you left it at that, then it's broad enough that the insurance company can't wiggle out of it. I got a denial last week that said you don't have coverage for civil authority, and they didn't. But they did have coverage, and that's what the claim was for, civil authority only. But they did have coverage for business interruption, and the insurance company just ignored that. And so just a very broad request for claim for all coverages available under the policy. And you guys stop me, Ned or Phil, if we do get a question. So what does the insurance company have to pay when you have a case? Generally, it's going to be these two things. Now, there's going to be some differences between policies, but normal continuing operating expenses plus profit. And so let's say you're shut down, but you still have ongoing expenses. You know, you used to have expenses of, say, $500,000 a month. Now you've let a bunch of people go, you've shut down, but you still have continuing expenses, but they're only at $50,000. So you get that. And then you used to make, let's say, $100,000 in profit a month. And now you're making, you're in the hole 20 grand a month. So you'd be able to recover what that was, plus you get the profit you had been earning before. So now this month you're in the hole 20 and you used to make 100, you get your 120. Extra expenses are not your normal operating expenses, but they're extra that you've had to incur because of this pandemic. Let's say now you've had to store a bunch of stuff, things like that. That's an extra expense.
Hey, Mark, we have a question from the audience.
Go for it.
From Logan. I'm about to unmute you, Logan. Here we go.
Hey, thanks. So I run a small software startup out of California, and I've already filed a claim and been denied. So I was just wondering what good next steps are to kind of refile and increase my chances of getting approved.
All right, so you're in California?
Correct.
Okay. Couple things. Do you have a copy of your letter, your notice letter that you sent to the insurance company, and do you have a copy of their denial letter?
Yeah, not handy, but we have them on file and can get them, yeah.
Okay. If you could email those to me, and it's markin@forthepeople.com. You email me those two documents, markin@forthepeople.com. Let us get a look at that for you. I have some friends that handle these claims in California. What area of California are you in?
We're in Santa Monica.
Okay. So send me that, and let me see if I can look at that, and I'll hook you up with friends of mine who are out there. Do you mind telling me what your insurance company said? I think I know what they said. They're going to say you didn't have actual physical damage at your premises, and therefore it's not covered. Am I right about that?
Right, exactly. We had to move out, but there's no damages, so the reason is denied. Yeah.
Well, your insurance policy, and is going to be, I suspect, very similar to a lot of other people's insurance or policies. And what the policy actually says, let me see, and I'll share my screen and I'll show you this. Let me see if I can find it. All right. Here's a copy, and this is what the insurance policy actually says. And this is the key to coverage. Almost all of them say this. All right, this is the business income. This is what they call it in this policy. This is a banker's policy. The suspension, is it right here, the suspension must be caused by 1, direct physical loss of, or 2, damage to property. Okay, you with me so far?
Yep, makes sense.
All right, caused by direct physical loss of or damage to. The insurance companies are telling everybody, well, that means damage to property. You've got to have damage to your property from the coronavirus, and you don't. And they are ignoring the direct physical loss part. They are direct physical, I just put this, they ignore the direct physical loss of. And they just say in their denial letters, you don't have any damage to property. But that's not the trigger of coverage. There are 2 triggers for coverage. Direct physical loss of or damage to property. Those are very different things. And I'll tell you, whenever I take the deposition of an insurance adjuster or their corporate representative, I ask them, do you agree that every word in the policy matters? And they say yes. In this case, direct physical loss of means something different than damage to, because it would just make damage to property meaningless if they were the same thing. And I'll give you an example of how courts have treated this. Let's say your car is stolen. That is direct physical loss of your property. There's no damage. There could be. But let's say it's stolen and it's not damaged. Then that's direct physical loss of. Now they wreck the thing, you're going to have damage also. But you have been deprived of the use of your car, and the policy covers it because it allows coverage for direct physical loss of your vehicle. You can no longer use it for its intended purpose. Same thing with your building. When you filled out the application for your property insurance, and most people don't realize this, the business income expense is found in the property policy. That's where the business income. When you insure your property, you get this coverage. And the reason it's in there is because your application, when you file the application, you have to put your industry code in there, and you say what your business is. You say what the address of your business is. And the intent is for you, and the intent is for the insurance company, if you can no longer use your business for its intended purpose, they're going to compensate you. That's the whole purpose. Now, it's easy to see when there's a fire and you can no longer use it for its intended purpose. In that case, it sustained what? Damage. And then they pay you for that. In this case, you can no longer use your business for its intended purpose. And you can't use it because you have direct physical loss of, they still owe it. And so that's kind of a long explanation for your question, but you have the question that everybody else has, is what do I do next? And I think in the back of people's mind, it is, well, why is it covered? It does say it has to have damage here, and I kind of don't have damage. Why is it covered? Well, the insurance company is tricking you a little bit when they say that you have to have damage to property, because they're ignoring the direct physical loss. component of it. All right, what other questions do you have, if any, Logan?
No, that's excellent. I think the interpretation of loss and whether or not that's like access to or kind of physically removed from the building is an argument we hadn't thought of, or at least something we didn't know you could fight. So, I mean, that's a good next step, and I would love to maybe get your help in reviewing it, and then we can go from there. But I think that's exactly the answer I was looking for.
Okay, we'll send it to you. Most people don't realize that it's in the property policy, and the whole intent is if you can't use your property for its intended purpose, you would expect to be compensated for your loss of income. And the insurance company has promised you on their oath to pay it to you if it's due to direct physical loss of. And here you have lost the use of your building. You can no longer use it for its intended purpose. All right, anything else from you?
No, sorry. Can you give me the email one more time?
Absolutely. Mark in at forthepeople.com. Mark in like
Thanks, Mark.
nation for the people. All right, Logan, thanks for asking that question. It's a great one. Ned, any other questions we got?
Mark, we have a question from Frank. Frank, you are live.
Hi, Mark. Can you hear me?
Frank, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Excellent.
So-
What's happening?
Look, here's what I'm seeing on a lot of the denials that I'm reviewing. Obviously, the direct physical damage, they're conflating the two. You've already answered that. And then,
You're raising a good point. They say direct physical damage. That's
Right.
what they're saying, right? And
that's what they write.
The policy says.
Right.
And so why are they doing that? Why are they saying direct? And I'll let you run on in a second. Direct physical damage. That's what they're saying. There is no direct physical damage. Those words are not in the policy. Go ahead, Frank. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So I'm seeing that in denial letters and speaking to adjusters. And then, of course, if there's a virus exclusion or the term virus pops up in either a definition of microorganisms or bacteria, they immediately turn to that. So my question is, what are some of the best arguments to get around the virus exclusions? And is an argument such as, well, this loss was not caused by a virus per se, but is caused by the shutdowns and closures from civil authorities in response to a spread of a global pandemic?
Yep. So let's do them one at a time. Some policies have no exclusions at all. None.
Right.
And then other policies have some exclusions that have nothing to do with this scenario, but the insurance company is trying to get a square peg into a round hole. But what if it has a microorganism exclusion? What if they put the word absolute at the end? Well, let's look at the definition. Mold, I don't have that. Mildew, fungus, spores, or other microorganism of any type, including but not limited to these things that may have potential threat to human health. The insurance company is saying that's an exclusion right there. And here we have, this is a Lloyd's policy. All right, and they say, there you go, it's not covered. Now here's the problem. Micro means small, organism means a living, something that's living. You know, a virus is not alive. It's not a living thing. Bacteria is, but virus isn't. And so a virus is not a microorganism. And so we can get around this one, I think, pretty easily. So that one is out. Now, sometimes they'll stick the word, virus right here. And that could, and by the way, Lloyd's has an actual virus exclusion. So we know, if I'm in a summary judgment hearing on a Lloyd's policy and they're trying to use this, I'm going to put side by side this with an exclusion that actually excludes virus and tell the judge, look, they know how to do this when that's their intent. And then I'm going to have an affidavit from my microbiologist who's going to say, look, virus is not a microorganism. So that's a way to get around that one. Here's a common one. This is put out by ISO. This is the 07 version. There was an 06 version that came out July of 2006. And so we see this, exclusion of loss due to virus. I think people stop reading when they get there and they go, well, it's too bad. But I wouldn't do that. No, now there's what I'm about to tell you, there's no law on this. But this is how I read it. Let's start here. Let's start with A. The exclusion set forth in B applies to. All right, so let's look there. All right, so B is the exclusion. A is not the exclusion. B is the exclusion. A provides us the scope of the exclusion. So the exclusion set forth in B applies to all coverages under Section 1. All right, but it doesn't end there. In all forms and endorsements that comprise this business owner's policy, except blah, blah, blah. All right. This includes, but is not limited to, forms or endorsements. And here's the money shot right here. We change the color. That cover property damage to buildings. Remember when we started this whole conversation, I said there are two triggers for coverage. There are two triggers for coverage. One, direct physical loss of, or two, damage to property. The scope of this exclusion only deals with those losses that are triggered by number 2. And I get I see where it says this includes but is not limited to. That term, this includes but is not limited to, does not modify property damage. That modifies the forms that it applies to. Property damage limits it, in this case, to those types of claims that are triggered by actual damage to the property. It does not deal at all with losses that are triggered by direct physical loss of. Make sense?
That makes sense. That makes sense.
If they have two triggers for coverage, let's say they have, and they do, there's no doubt about it, they have two triggers for coverage. If they meant for this to exclude those losses that are triggered by either direct physical loss of or damage to, they would have said the same words that they say when they grant coverage. When they grant coverage, they use these words: direct physical loss of or damage to property. They don't. I drew the line in the wrong place. Hold on. The cover, they would said it this way. They cover direct physical loss of or damage to property. They didn't. This is only dealing with damage. There's not one case on this yet. We'll see what happens. Let me see if I have another one in here. I'll show you another one. This one, the Hartford. This has the same two-prong trigger. Let's see. When you get into this one, fungi, it excludes wet rot, dry rot, bacteria, and virus. But when you read through this, there are two ways you can have fungi. You can have fungi inside a building. You can have fungi outside a building. You can have wet rot inside a building and outside a building. You can have dry rot. I'll write it all out. You can have bacteria inside and outside. Do we agree that the presence of any of these inside of a building can cause the building to be closed? Of course, we've all seen it. Buildings get shut down for the presence of fungi, meaning mold, and it defines it as mold in this. In wet rot and dry rot, you can't use your building because it has those things in it. But when you have fungi that's out in the environment, that would never prevent you from using your building. So the type of fungi, wet rot, dry rot, bacteria, virus that they're talking about isn't the kind that's out in the community. They're talking about the kind that's inside of your building. And I'll show you how I know that in a minute. So fungi out circulating in the environment doesn't close a building. It's not talking about that type. It's talking about the type that's inside. Wet rot that's outside doesn't close a building. Dry rot that's outside doesn't close a building. Can bacteria or virus close a building? We sure can, and we've seen it. And that's out in the environment. But there's a Latin term that when it's translated means this. Words, I can't even say noscator scori or something like that. Words are known by the company they keep. It's a rule of contractual construction. And so words are known by the company they keep. These words, fungi, wet rot, dry rot, bacteria, and virus that are used in this exclusion are talking about the kinds that exist inside of a building, not the kind that circulates out in the environment. And how do we know that? Because just on the next page, it talks about we're not going to pay for the cost of removal. What? We don't have any to remove. And we're not going to pay for the cost to tear out and replace any part of the building. The cost of testing and removal. It's talking about the kind of virus, the kind of bacteria, the kind of fungi and wet rot, dry rot that exist inside of a building and cause it to shut down. It is not talking about the kind that's out in the environment. We do not have any case law on that item. And so these are some of the things that are going to have to get litigated. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Can we go back to the Lloyd's one really quick?
Yep. There we go.
The virus exclusion.
Okay, well, the Lloyd's one here doesn't have it. This is the business one, the ISO.
I'm sorry. Yes, that one.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I loved this argument that you made. I like that a lot. And I guess the limitation that you were speaking of, this includes but is not limited to forms and endorsements. Now, is that also talking about end forms and endorsements that cover business income, extra expense, civil authority? Because those are the ones we're going to be operating under, right? Okay.
Right.
So
what it's saying is it's all of them, but only for those types of losses that are triggered by property damage.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. Okay, perfect.
It's every form. So you've got, let's say you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 forms that might provide some type of coverage. What it's saying is this exclusion is going to apply to every one of these, every single one of them. But the key is if the damage is triggered by property damage, or if the loss is triggered by property damage. There's no trigger here for direct physical loss that it doesn't apply. And again, if you look closely at almost all the exclusions, they're really focused on the presence of these things inside of a building that cause it to become unusable. And then you've got to do a cleanup. They generally are not talking about the type of bacteria that you have or virus out in the community that spreads and results in this type of loss that we're experiencing now. And you know that if it isn't excluded, it's covered. That's the law.
Yep.
All right, you got anything else, Frank?
No, thank you so much, Mark.
Happy to do it. Hey, Ned, do we got any other questions?
We don't have anything in the queue, so final call for questions. If not, then we could wrap things for today.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody watching and listening. And the questions, they are what make this go by so much faster, and I enjoy that a lot more. So thanks for the great questions, everyone. Anything else, Ned or Phil, we need to do to wind up?
I just want to thank everyone for coming. Make sure that you pass this on to folks that you know and love and trust that have business interruption claims, that they need to have someone fight for their payout. We'll be here every Thursday as long as it is needed and as long as we have good participation. Mark is going to lead the Business Interruption Fight for Your Payout Q&A every Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for coming.